Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting.
What's up? How are you?
I'm great.
It's great. Welcome to the first Thursday episode of HomeFront Sitrep. I'm your host, Not Willis.
And I'm your other host, Not Willis.
We're not Willis.
Not Willis.
If you want to see Willis, check it out Sundays and Mondays. But
he's watching. He can't even take a day off.
No, aren't you supposed to be at your wife's birthday party?
His wife.
Yeah, celebrate your wife. Not us. I'm not going to ruin your podcast, Willis.
No, we don't need babysitters.
Maybe. So as you guys can see, they've let the inmates run the asylum. So we're going to have a good time.
Yes, we are. The torch is ready.
I'm telling you, listen, we have a great guest tonight. However, I'm going to warn you ahead of time. We're going to be talking about some dark subjects. Could trigger some people, may not, but it's things that I personally feel that needs to be talked about more. So I am giving out the pre-warning. But please listen. This information is life-saving. Let's just put it out there. Yeah. The information is life-saving. Oh,
literally.
So
the way tonight, word it, like here's the description as I put it, is that it's going to be touchy, heartfelt, and full of information. But it's time to make the uncomfortable comfortable.
100%. Yeah,
that's where we're going tonight.
Yeah, so just buckle up, but it'll be good. It will be worth it. So if you can, stick with us. If you can't, I completely understand. Tune out. If you get your senses back to you, please watch the replay.
Absolutely.
Because, like I say, this is very, very important information. But before we start, how was your day, Candace?
It was great. Like it was. I felt like I was in purgatory because of this weather, because I was outside most of it. But it was a great day. It's been a great week altogether. So,
well, good.
What about yours, Brandon?
Busy as always, dealing with the radio station and everything. But my wife came home early. My wife's a hospice nurse. So luckily she got to come home at like 2:00. So we've been hanging out, except I call it Satan's butthole, but other people call it Walmart. So we went to Walmart. Yeah. And, we did some shopping, but I got ice cream. So I'm happy.
And some extra time with the wife. That's always nice.
Yeah, I love it. I love when I get to spend more time with her. She's got a hard job. So if there are any nurses or first responders out there that are watching, we love you guys. Like, if it wasn't for y'all, I don't know what we would do. So we're just not veteran supporters. We're also first responders, law enforcement, fire, EMS, nursing staff, ER staff. You all have a place in my heart. Well, would you like to introduce our guest? Or do you want me to? I have it pulled up. Okay.
Yes, go for it.
Yeah. So tonight we have Mr. D. Paul Fleming, a retired and disabled Navy veteran. I too was a department of the Navy. I was in the men's department, but we'll let that slide. He's not smiling. He makes me nervous.
Now, this
He makes
is
me
D. Paul
nervous.
Fleming, a.k.a. Doug.
Yes, aka Doug. He is a life coach, a business consultant, and most importantly, a published author. We'll definitely get into his book. His book is called A Date with Suicide. There, I said it. That word will be said because I don't care what YouTube and Facebook standards are. We're going to say the word, and we're going to.
You know what he really is, though? The most important thing? You know what he is?
What's that?
He's a survivor.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
Let's bring him on.
Yeah, let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. D. Paul Fleming.
What's going on, guys?
Thank you so much for coming on. I had to take a shot across the bow at you just there at the beginning, but we'll leave that out.
Hey, let me tell you something. The only real Marines are submarines.
Oh my!
If you ain't been in the military till you've done a tour on a submarine, pal. So
I don't want it. What I'm telling. Okay, fine. Let's just start this off with a bit of humor. And I've always wanted to ask this question: what happens if you eat beans for chow and everybody is farting? Like, how does that smell get out of a sub? I've always wondered.
You hold your breath for 6 months, and
Fair. Okay, fair enough. Listen, I'm trying to lighten it up because once we get started, we're going into it, and it's super important. So give us a little brief synopsis of who you are for everybody that's watching.
yeah, that's kind of tough to do in a short run. But let me just do a fast track of who I am. I'm a product of a very tough childhood. I was on my own at 14. I was in the military at 17 with a former Marine who swung a gavel and whacked it onto a position of authority with a black robe who wanted to see my enlistment papers. So I was in San Diego doing boot advanced A, went into the fleet, rode the USS Dallas SSN 700. So if you ever saw the movie Hunt for Red October, I was on that boat. I was actually on that boat before the movie came out. But I did 2 years, 1 month deployed on that boat. Got fouled up a couple of times. One time cost me 100% disability. Took me a few decades to figure out PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then, I tried working. That didn't work out real well. I went to work for myself and figured I can lose money without anybody else's help. And I proved that theory, valuable.
Right.
Got married and had 6 kids, got a bunch of grandkids. Done a lot for veterans over the past 4 decades. Spent 10 years in D.C. As one of 8 nationally elected members of the Vet Force, the veterans organization that represents over 300 service organizations on Veterans Entrepreneur. Got Public Law 109-461 passed, which is commonly coined the Vet First Contracting Act.
Right.
Between that and Executive Order 13360, 3% of all government spending's got to go to veteran-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. I investigated corruption inside the same program under a master chief for a little over 10 years, actually 12 or 14 years. And in 2018, I said, listen, man, I've either got to finish this path I'm on and get this suicide thing figured out, or I've got to find peace. So, spoiler alert, I found peace, right?
Yes. And we are so glad you did.
I'm a published author. And by the way, I'm probably the only person you're ever going to meet that can mix humor into the toughest subject we as veterans will ever talk about. And that's ourselves and suicide. But I'm the only guy that can do it in writing and in humor and bring it home, right?
Oh, I see. I love it.
To do with having the experience. Experiencing it allows you to have a different perspective and be able to talk about it in a different way, I think sometimes.
Well, I sat there a number of times with the opportunity and the means,
Mm-hmm.
and that voice in my ear And in my book, I write about a chapter is titled "Who's Your Randy." My first suicide was a guy named Randy, a shipmate, and that the effect that had on me weighed heavy for my entire life. And that was only a couple of years after I was after my EAOS, right? So that between that and thinking about the damage that I would do to my wife and kids, and then my the spirit world chewing in my ear,
right,
saying, look, man, we got stuff for you to do. So we got stuff that you're going to be doing that you don't even understand yet,
Right.
And it came true, right? Who would have thought a guy who barely got out of high school and can barely read would be a published author with 3-4 more books coming out this year. Crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. One thing I definitely want to bring up, I before the show, I told you that I was in Iraq in 2003 and got out in 2007. And, back then, and nobody knew what PTSD was. It was the military was pretty much, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. Suck it up. Keep going. And it wasn't until, maybe 5-6 years later that anybody started to try to figure this thing out. Why are these guys coming back messed up? Be it from combat, be it from incidences that happen, in the fleet. I've got a buddy of mine that's a submariner, and which I need to talk to you about offline. We got issues going on, and it's really hard for him to get help because a lot of his stuff is redacted.
Yeah, we can solve that problem.
Yeah, I definitely. It just clicked in my head. I'm sorry to slow the flow, but yeah, I need somebody to talk to about that.
Yeah, don't let anybody ever bullshit you. It doesn't matter what you did in the service. It's in your jacket, and the representatives for the VA have access to that, along with, I recommend DAV or American Legion. DAV has always been good to me for 20 plus years. I've sent, I couldn't tell you, hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of people into the DAV system, and take the pressure off of yourself so you don't have to worry about it. Most vets want to go in and file the paperwork and say, I can do this.
Right.
And my next advice to them is like, listen, you got to go through the pace that you got to go through. When you get rejected and denied, okay, you got 1 year to file your appeal. So when you get your rejection letter, head down to DAV. I'll drive you there if you want. Okay, but you got to go in and talk to them yourself because we can't go in with you. But
right.
Go to DAV and they'll get your paper straightened out, and your date from filing remains your date from pay date. So never let that 1 year expire.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Go ahead, Candace.
Well, I have a question because, listening to this, and like I said, I've been in the world for a while. I'm in the community, and you talk about those years that people didn't know what PTS was. Like, people didn't understand it. They didn't understand the TBIs. They didn't understand, the PTS. And it goes all the way back. Like, we could even go Vietnam. Like, you look at these Vietnam veterans, and there's some definite PTS there. So my question would be, for you two gentlemen who have experienced and survived this many times, what do you think it is now that is, I don't want to say bringing it into the light, but more making the awareness there, making it such high numbers? What do you think it is that's causing that now?
Yeah, you want me to take that, Brandon?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so that's let me try to hit the cliff notes. It's everything from social media, okay, and the fact that the generation post 9/11 is losing contact with verbal communication. Okay. Reading cues. Like I tell people, you can't tell somebody is suicidal through a text unless they say I'm suicidal. Right. When a veteran meets a veteran and looks him in the eye, something's wrong. Okay. A veteran can pick a veteran out of a crowd. It's just the way it is. All right. It's like a mother, mother sense, right? Explain to me mother sense. Well, listen, I can listen to my wife. She can explain it well. And I just got to look at her and I can see that mother sense is kicking in. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, a veteran looking at a veteran can pick up cues that nobody else can. Right. And that's the
Right.
energy that we give off, and so on and so on. This aura that surrounds each and every one of us. So one of the things that I'm starting to try and get out there to this younger generation is that you've gotta get out and not just do a buddy check by, some form of social media, or even just, these Zoom calls or streamlines.
Right.
You gotta get and sit down and have a cup of coffee, right? Or a beer, whatever it is you guys do, right? But you gotta look people in the eye. So why is it so bad? Well, suicide's always been here. So has PTSD, just in different terms. It used to be shell shock, so on and so on. So it's always been here, okay? But post-Vietnam is when it really went rampant. Again, there was 25 million people in uniform in World War II. Now, I know I grew up with the World War II generation, so the suicides were there. There's just no statistics to back it up because, again, the VA didn't have any footprint on it. It was the post-Vietnam era. And then from the 1990s on, Rick Weidman, a friend of mine, number 2 in VVA, he told me 10, 15 years ago, he said the worst cases of suicide right now is our older generation of Vietnam veterans. I'll pay attention to this. A week before my last book came out, a shipmate of mine, age 63, committed suicide. Okay. 1 week before my book released. Right. So my generation, the guys I grew up with and served with, we're pushing through the 60s and we are topping out on suicides. All right. When I say that there's 50 suicides a day, I'm telling you that because I can statistically prove it.
Right.
My position is there's somewhere between 100 and 200 suicides a day. Not to ramble and take over your show, but if you look at the VA and the numbers that come out of there, it used to be 22. They said it's 17. It was down to 17. It's all bull. Okay.
Hey, just to clarify, Doug, real quick, this show is about you. So
yeah, take over, man. This is important.
Eddie's magazine published this an article on what's called Operation Deep Dive. Operation Deep Dive, in part, is done by the University of Columbia in New York. All right. They went to 8 states, and the conclusion is, it's a great article, read it, and it's ongoing. Their conclusion is the VA numbers are extremely bogus, and it is at least 2.4 times higher. That takes us into the 40s per day. Okay. Right. Let me say it differently. Look, anybody know a veteran that's committed suicide?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So let's do our own, reconnaissance, right?
Right.
So PTSD has been around for a long time. It's the willingness of 2 things, the government and the VA, right, to acknowledge it. And 2, and this is the most important part, we have to stop being afraid of the word suicide.
Right.
And the action of suicide.
Right.
The only way we as veterans are going to stop killing ourselves is only when the civilian community steps up and acknowledges, accepts, and stops doing this when they hear suicide.
Yep.
Right. Okay. You can't. It's taboo. And I don't want to rant, but like abortion 50, 60 years ago was as taboo as it gets. Go back 70 years. Oh my God, a kid out of wedlock. The Antichrist was born, right?
Right.
We're in that same mess. And I'll close this kind of gospel, if you will, with this. Pre 9/11, you were not told, you did not say you were a veteran. The generation that fought the Vietnam War is the most abused generation in the history of the United States.
Agreed.
Those poor bastards got everything on the ass end of Sunday. If it wasn't for them, the VA wouldn't be in the position that it's in. Because when I went into the VA, it was an absolute nightmare. And I mean nightmare. Okay. Yep. When 9/11 happened, all of a sudden, it became cool to be a veteran. Okay. So now you got a lot of Vietnam veterans and a lot of veterans that are post 1975 to 02, right? We're looking at this going, man, I just spent how many decades getting my teeth kicked in, and now everybody loves all the veterans. So it's, again, you got to feel wanted. You got to feel loved. So here's the greatest thing that's happened for all generations. Thank you for your service.
Yep.
Right? Now, I'll
Yes.
close with this. We need the phrase that follows through after thank you for your service. We need to come up with the phrase that says, what? I support you with mental health. Okay. If you're suicidal, talk to me. Or maybe this one, I'm listening.
Big one.
Have to do something so that when people say, thank you for your service, they immediately somehow acknowledge, I acknowledge and accept mental health. What's the term? We've got to figure it out because we need the civilian community to lead us out of this mess.
And you know, I have one example that I think will lead us right into a really good talking point. And then Candace, did you have something, Candace?
Well, yeah.
Did I interrupt you? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So the World War, I'll just go ahead. So the World War II in Korea, what did they have that we don't have? They had 2 to 3 months at sea on a ship together to come back. They could sit around and talk about their issues, talk about their traumas. But then you come to like Vietnam era on up. Well, you can be in a combat zone, and then 24 hours later, you're sitting at the kitchen table. You don't have any decompression time. There's no open conversation about how I'm feeling, and that, you know, what I wouldn't have given just to be on a ship for a couple of months before I came home, you know, just to sit there and talk. But go ahead, Kansas.
Well, I almost feel like that. I almost feel like that answers my question a little more than not than Doug, but just like what I was asking is what do you think that's causing it to be so rampant now? And it's not that it wasn't there in the past. I know that it was. I know there's so much that wasn't talked about before. And so my curiosity is what's making it to where we have been talking about it more. And I honestly, like, I don't know if it's just because I'm so in depth into the community or if it is actually out in the community that people are talking about it more.
And let's go ahead and welcome Donald Dunn, Double D, to the stage. And he left. I think I scared him.
Maybe.
Right. Anyway,
he forgot his wig.
He'll come back. But
so yeah, I guess it's just what I'm not, you know, it's before COVID happened. The 22 a day became such a big thing. So I'm asking what your guys' opinion on is what made that such a big thing, the 22 a day? What caused that number to be out there and for those things to happen? Yeah,
let me jump on that. Hey, Donald, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Yourself?
Good. Let me jump on that, Candace. I see where you're going with this. Here's where the disconnect comes in between veterans and the civilian community. Okay. Listen, we knew about the suicides. Right. The VA is the one that came up with this number 22. Now that number's been running around for what? 3 decades?
Easy. Yeah.
Wow.
So that takes us down into the 1990s. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And for 30 years, it stayed that way. Let's just use that as an example. Okay. So everybody's got this 22 ingrained into their head. In 2017, the VA was handed a mandate from Congress that said, get this suicide straightened out. Okay. The VA came back and said, by the way, am I yelling?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. The VA came back and said, praise Jesus. We did it. We've dropped from 22 a day to 17, baby. And they went before Congress and they said, we've got this under control. Okay. Now I'm looking around at this thing and I'm going, you know, again, I spent 10 years in DC. All right. And I was there when Kingdomware versus the VA got overturned 8-0 in the Supreme Court. And the VA is still fighting that. Okay. VA is not vet friendly. Okay. I don't want to get off topic, but part of Vet Force 2, an organization I'm putting together, is going to focus on dismantling the VA and getting mental health, full stop, mental health for all veterans, free of charge, paid for by the government, by saying 3 words: I need help. You say I need help, you have immediate paid for access to any civilian mental health facility that you want to go to. That will stop.
It should already be that way.
But let me finish the train so I can answer your question, Candace. So in 2018, the VA jumped up and down and said, we got it down to 17. It's bullshit. Okay. If you dig into Christine Walker's, she's the editor-in-chief. She's a Navy corpsman, was a Navy corpsman. She owns and runs this magazine. In there is called Operation Deep Dive. Mentioned it, right? Operation Deep Dive is an ongoing study and report backed by the University of Columbia. Their report came out a few years ago, the initial report that said that the 17 a day is bogus. It's based on false information. It's basically they were playing with their numbers. Again, we knew this.
Right.
They report it's at least 2.4 times higher based on actual counted suicides. Okay. So that puts us between 44 and 50 suicides a day. Now pay attention to the biggest problem of all. And few people understand this. Only about 30% of all of our country's veterans are even registered with the VA.
Right.
Let alone have anything to do with it. Okay?
The 22 was a bogus number.
That's correct. And if the VA is only seeing 30% in their system, again, only about 17 or 18% are actually actively going to the VA. But 30% is what veterans are registered in the VA. Well, what about the other 70%? Okay. Where's all that go? Well, nobody knows.
Well, they're not part of those statistics.
Here's the last part. Drug overdoses, insulin overdoses.
Yep.
Okay. Driving your motorcycle at 750 miles an hour into a telephone pole, oncoming car, one car accidents, falling off a roof, jumping off a cliff and saying, I fell, drowning, disappearing. Okay. Guys go on cruise, never come back. How about this one? Friend of mine left the military, never got home. Nobody knows where he is. That was 40 years ago. Okay. So when I say that the deaths, the suicides are somewhere between 1 and 200, I have the ability to tell the story, but 50 a day is what's making people step back and say, oh my goodness. Now I'd love to say that this is a brand new fad, but my belief and my history tells me that, listen, veterans have been killing themselves since, pre-Civil War, right?
Right. And here's my thing. So, and this is just a personal experience, and then we're going to get Donald's take on it. But I was in the ER at the VA I lost my friggin' mind. I had the ER shrink tell me, you don't have PTSD and there's nothing wrong with you. Now, I say that to say this. Unfortunately, knew another veteran that had the exact same issue with that same doctor, walked out into the parking lot, sat in his car, and took the long nap. And it was not covered by local news. They don't want to talk about it.
Of course not.
Donald, what jump in here. What do you think about this,
because
man?
the VA is doing great things. They can't put a bad light on that.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things here. I think one of the problems is even when the VA does come up with a good program, they do a piss poor job of advertising that program.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pick up rocks, dig under the ocean to find out how the program works. And then once you do figure it out, it becomes a red tape marathon to actually get to use it. The only thing they did right was here recently when they made it to where now you can go to any hospital, walk in and say, I need help and I'm a veteran. And the VA will cover up to 30 days of inpatient. And I think it's up to 60 days outpatient. And they'll cover the emergency bill for that hospital. Again,
That's a damn shame that just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. And on
That
top
should have
of
been
that,
a no-brainer.
on top
Sorry,
of
go
that,
ahead.
it wasn't advertised.
Mm.
So unless you are digging into the newspapers, I came across it on social media. Somebody had shared it, and then it made me go and start looking into some newspaper articles to find it. But they don't make an effort to stay current with the generation. We just had a 20-year war, which means you have two different generations that fought this war. And both of those generations are 100% different. The way the end of the war generations respond to things and learn things is completely different from my generation that started the war. And if you don't keep up with that, you're never going to tackle this problem. The other thing I want to challenge, right, is on another podcast, I had a guest that was from the British military. And at the very end, he said, I would have you on my show, but it's just a mental health podcast. And it made me ask, I said, you have a mental health podcast? He said, yeah, we've got too many damn soldiers killing themselves. And it blew my mind. I was like, holy fuck, is that not just an American problem?
Nope.
Well, the truth is it's a human problem. All right. It didn't matter what side of the lines you were on. We all had a bunch of allies. So that 55, when you change the word from veteran to warrior, you think it's still 55?
No, not at all. And,
well, you said something important about like the VA creating these programs. And that's the thing is like, it's almost like it's required for them to do it because it's like, yay, we're doing something about it. We're taking it from 22 to 17. No, you created a program so that you can say, we did it. It's impossible to get into. And once you get people into it, then it's not staffed. You don't have enough people. You're waiting 9 to 10 months to get in there to be seen when you need help right now. Like, great, they have 988. It's a wonderful thing. It is the most beautiful thing that the VA has probably created. But these other programs are just, it's almost blasphemy. It's like, here, we're going to tease you. Here's your little cheese. Do you want it? Do you want it? Like, come work for it. And for you guys to make a phone call sometimes is one of the hardest things you do, much less to walk into a facility, talk to somebody that is looking at you with these glasses on and a notebook, writing your stuff down and judging you, and then telling you that there's nothing wrong with you. But what? Like, I don't, but, and take these 10 medications. You're going to be all right.
I'm actually on 23 medications a day. Thank you, VA.
Well, yeah. And I was being nice. Like, I was being nice.
So
and that's you, the thing that's not wrong with you.
So let me ask you this question. Have you ever wondered why when you can talk to veteran and say, oh yeah, what medication did they start you on? And it's the same shit?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and even for different things.
The other part of this is the VA dictates what meds that they can give you, at what level, how many times you've asked for more, different problems and everything. And there's a list of certain meds that's not based on how well or how effective. It's how much per pill, because they measure it in pills. And I got that
100.
I got that from my primary care physician that I currently have at the VA, who's trying to deal with my headaches. And she flat out told me, I have to go from this level to this level. You have to try it for a while, and until you finally get high enough to go see a neurologist, and then they will issue you something that works. That was word for word what she told me.
It's like going to rehab before you can have surgery. Like,
and I'll tell another personal story. Because look, and I'll just put it out there for those of you who don't know. I have 3 suicide attempts under my belt. It's real. It happens. I even went so far as to check myself into a domiciliary in New York, a dual diagnostic, because I was also a raging alcoholic. 1, because I couldn't sleep at night with the nightmares. 2, that was my preferred method to just, take the old Remington retirement plan. I knew what I was doing. Well, I checked myself in, and 2 weeks after I checked myself in, all of the mental health counselors quit. All of them. There was no mental health left. And that, from talking to other people that were in the domiciliaries, it's about the same. But Doug, let me ask you, how do we fix the stigmata that is around the whole subject of mental health and suicide? What do we do? Where do we go?
Same way we attack the opioid problem. Okay.
Fair.
Listen, we either start from the grass up or we do it from the top down. Now, last administration got us veterans into private healthcare, right? In 2018, when I went to see my first private doctor, I actually made progress. Okay. And for me, that's when my world kind of turned around. Right. So how do we do it? Well, we start with an HR that I'm working on that I mentioned earlier that says, I need help. Anytime a veteran uses those 3 words, they have instant and immediate access to private care. Okay. Let me just put this out there. The VA is PTSD. Look, if you don't know that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. If you're in the system, most of the guys I talk to say, yeah, I'm with you. Okay. That's why there's so many parking lot suicides. Right.
Right.
But the biggest thing of all is we have to stop fearing the word suicide. Right. So what is it, 20 years ago or 15 years ago when it was a drug overdose, the conversation was slow and lethargic, you kind of like, how did he die? He's in the coffin. He's like, was he a drug addict? Right. It's like, oh, it's taboo. Well, we need to knock the taboo off of it. And the only way we're going to do that is to get the civilian community to step up and say, it's okay to say suicide. Are you suicidal? I'm not. Are you? Can I help you? Can I listen? Okay. We have to destigmatize the word by having the conversation. Now, how are we gonna do that? Well, I got a phone call yesterday. Actually, my wife said a phone call came in last night. Vets on the edge. Okay. An old shipmate of mine called me up and used every word except suicide. And I said, hey, how come you won't say the word suicide? And there's that long pause that we're all guilty of, right? Again, if I didn't write the damn book, I probably wouldn't be saying it myself. If I wasn't on this quest to get out there and destigmatize suicide. Again, I'm not doing it to promote suicide, of course.
Right.
I'm doing it to say, look, alcoholism, you didn't talk about it 50 years ago. Now, listen, a DUI is a DUI, right? In the 80s, a DUI wasn't nothing but a cop following you home.
Right.
We've got to get to the same point. But the way we have to do it is we as veterans have to be willing to tell our story. And as civilians, 2 things. We need civilians to listen and not say anything. Just listen.
Yes.
Most veterans, when somebody says, tell me your story, they'll talk, but they don't want you to respond. They just want somebody to listen. Okay. Now, grab 10 vets and ask them the same thing. Do you want somebody to respond? No, because you're not looking for judgment or an answer. You're just trying to get it out of you. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, we've got to get the civilian population to stop being stigmatized by the term suicide. We've got to go to these funerals with veterans committing suicide and say, yeah, it was a suicide. And we have to fight this. Okay. We've got to stop doing this in hushed tone.
Right.
Okay. And most importantly, we need this group to double and to double and to double and to double until we've inundated everybody out there with the fact that we're willing to talk about it, come forward and tell our story.
And one of the big things that I notice about like when veterans are sitting around together, we're comfortable in silence. I will sit with you quietly for hours. Or if you want to talk, I don't say a word. And we know that. We know instinctively because that's what we want. So if we can somehow train civilians to just sit there. Sometimes that's all I want. I just want somebody to come over to the house and sit down with me, and we don't say a word.
Can I jump on that?
Please go ahead.
I put it in my books and I put it out on all my social media posts. Okay, I'm listening. Okay, so go back to what I said. I listen. People we need our veterans to be able to communicate without being worried about being talked back to. Okay, so I can't tell you how many times I've gone someplace, sat in that proverbial booth with a coffee, and done nothing, absolutely nothing. Flipped through pages. Okay, stared off, talked to somebody else, read a book while you're sitting there with another veteran. Just trying to get through the day, trying to get through the night, or going and having breakfast and not saying a word. Okay, all that veteran needs sometimes, more times than not, is just somebody to be next to him for a period of time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that can relate to them without having to say a word. When a vet says, I'm having a bad day, he doesn't need to say anymore.
Nope.
We get it. Right. And we need the civilians to stop saying, well, what does that mean? Right? It means I'm having a bad day.
I think that's the problem. You said it right there. So yes, we want people to listen, but it does matter who the people are. All right.
True.
That is one of the problems. I don't think that you can deal with a veteran through the VA system with a therapist who cannot relate. You know, that's like asking me to understand why a menstrual cycle is so painful. I don't know. I've never had one. So how is the therapist supposed to?
But you should know. You should know what the treatment for that is. You should know.
Well, I mean, nowadays,
the side effects that it has, because it's the same for every single person.
Yeah. Here's a book.
You should know.
Ask me questions. Yes, no. Follow the fucking flow chart. Yeah.
So let me jump on that, Don. I'm sorry, Cass, let me jump on that. You know the biggest response I'm getting to this book? Mental health providers.
Really?
Okay. Oh yeah. I've got people that have reached out to me that want to do a doctoral thesis.
Yep.
Right. All right. On what I laid out. I've got a bunch of groups that connect companies that connect veterans or connect people with mental health therapists. They're clamoring to get my attention because of what's written in this book. When you get to the last chapter, again, I'm not just writing a book. I'm providing answers. I'm providing direction. Okay, I went at that book to solve two things: what happened to me and why. And that's the focus of the book. And it targets four separate things, starting with what is a veteran and why don't we feel like one? What is trauma and why won't we talk about it? We have to tell our story, right? Okay. Yep. So it's a book that takes you from who I am and why. It deals with the VA, but in the end, it also says to us, it says, do you understand your physical, your mental, your spiritual, and your emotional bodies? Right?
Right.
If you're in pain, which one is hurting? Well, think about it. If you're in physical pain, right? If you've been stabbed, okay, well, how come you don't feel too much emotion? Am I dying? Right? Okay, well, all right, well, it hurts. Okay. Now, well, what about falling in love and having a girlfriend or boyfriend, if you will, jilt you, right? You're in love and then you get dumped, right? The classic Dear John letter while you're on deployment.
Yeah.
What happens? Your heart is crushed. But what happens to your physical body? Can you eat? Nope. Can you operate? Can you see correctly? Nope. No, so your physical body is affected. Well, how about your emotional state? Your physical, your mental, your spiritual, and your emotional states are all affected. Think about it. Your soul, your spirit. When a girl dumps you on a Dear John letter, all of your existence is crushed.
Yes.
When you're dealing with mental health, right?
Right.
You got to understand that the pain you're going through isn't just mental or physical. It is also emotional and spiritual. So you can't fix one without working on the others. Okay. Right. And when you look at these folks in the psychological profession, I've yet to see them address that. And to your point, Don, all right, when they walk in and they say, how can you relate to me? All right. I agree. And again, I got to say this carefully. There are segments, the majority of the people that are in the psychological profession come from a specific demographic, colleges and institutions. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Very few of them are, say, conservatives. Okay.
Right.
So the thing that you need as a patient is you need trust. Now, the psychological folks say you have to develop trust with your patient. Listen, that's common sense, right? Well, how can you trust the VA? You can't. Then how can you trust a psychologist in the VA? You can't. Listen, I went through a shit ton of them and found two, and I compliment them in this book. Okay, Dr. Christine Dyer was a kid, and then Maria Wren, who left to the VA and went to another VA in that circle jerk that goes on inside the VA.
Right.
But the biggest point I'll close this with this point. whatever's happening in your life, I don't care what you're dealing, what kind of trauma you're dealing with, the day to day, whatever it is, you got to remember you're dealing with it on a physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological bodies, your 4 core bodies. I apologize, guys. It's getting close to 9:00, and my bedtime is normally 8:30, so I'm getting a little slow. So,
well, let's
late partying tonight. No.
That's right. Let's all take a little breather. I think we need to pay some bills and run some commercials, and then we will come back and finish this up. But there's no hard stop tonight on this podcast. If it keeps going, it keeps going. This needs to get out, every little bit of it. So we will come right back. Go ahead,
also, like, you guys watching, when we come back, like, if you got questions, ask them. Like, I'm sure Doug is more than happy to answer and give his opinion, and as all of us are, I'm sure. There's a lot of passion in this, but are
you saying I'm bashful?
Oh, definitely not.
It's the Navy in you.
Oh, Jesus. Let's pay bills.
Owner of Talents here, and I just want to say that we are ecstatic to be a major sponsor of HomeFront Sitrep, a community that is ran by veterans and made for veterans. So thank you for tuning in. Talents was formed in order to create a music scene that was together in the form of a collective, so that no one has to do everything on their own. And guess what? We've been doing this for free for over a year. So please go and check out Talents through Facebook or through our official website at www.talenttalents.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for tuning in to HomeFront Sitrep, a veteran-owned and operated podcast just for you.
My name's Rick Ames. I own Louisville Local Entertainment, a company for music shows, promotions, and bookings in the Louisville music scene. As a veteran, it's my honor to support and sponsor local veteran-owned businesses such as HomeFront Sitrep, made by veterans for veterans. So if you're in the music business and need some help booking or promoting a show for free, look me up. Louisville Local Entertainment. And thanks for tuning in to HomeFront Sitrep.
Gear up in style wearing Got Your Six apparel. Every purchase makes a difference. It's more than just clothing, it's a statement of gratitude. Upgrade without breaking the bank. Discover cost-effective, high-quality clothing made in the USA. Each shirt is handcrafted by our team in the great state of Texas and shipped for free to your front door. Got Your Six is where quality meets purpose. We're a small veteran-owned business that takes pride in the mission and the value of our products. Join us in growing a community, supporting our heroes, veterans, and first responders by wearing a custom design.
I thought you'd never ask.
Visit sameflagsameoath.com and use the code TRIPLETHREAT for 10% off. Follow us on all social media platforms for any upcoming releases or events, and you can reach out to us with questions anytime. We are here to support our brothers and sisters.
Hey guys, Mac Verdi here with Veteran Mortgage Solutions. As rates are dropping, home values are going to start to go up. It's time to start looking if you're looking to purchase a home. That being said, we are an all-military veteran loan officer team. We know the ins and outs of the VA home loan. We are considered the experts in this field. Give us a call today. Go to our website, veteranmortgagesolutions.com. Fill out my quick form. I'll give you $500 off towards closing costs. Have a great day.
And guys, we're back. Double D, you good now?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I don't know what was happening. It was like all froze. Maybe when I
That's
switched from Wi-Fi to cell phone.
That's all
Hey, you
good.
guys got to clue me in on these names here. When you said Double D, I'm looking at Candace here and going, man, this is a pretty lively show, right? What are you
That
doing?
would probably,
Holy hell. Right?
I mean, you never know. I did say at the beginning of the show that the inmates have taken over the asylum, so you never can tell what has happened.
We just added
Candace,
more inmates. I love it.
Candace, your nickname
I'm trying not to like screw myself up. Here,
is going to be
hold on.
double E.
Double E.
I don't know. So,
ouch! Like talking about back problems.
Well, the VA won't cover back problems.
Well, I'm not a veteran, so that's good. Like it doesn't really matter, and
So
the back surgery go better elsewhere, anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So hold on, like being the only civilian here in this, like it's but dealing with so much and seeing so much, where you were talking about, Doug, with civilians needing to listen and or learning how to listen and be more comfortable with that word, and it's hard because me coming from the civilian world, but also being in the veteran world, understanding the difference of listening and being able to not ask the questions that are unnecessary. So, I mean, if you're in the world, you realize that these veterans don't need well, what happened and how did this happen and what does this make you feel like? Like it's the civilians having this understanding of when you say, hey, what's up? You okay? If that veteran decides that they want to talk to you about a camping trip that they went on, guess what? That's what you're going to listen to. And you're not going to keep digging into what the issue is, because what you did is opened an opportunity for them to speak and release some things. And that's their way of doing it. And if civilians would just start to understand that, and by default, I'll say as women, like we always want to know what's wrong and we want to fix it. So as civilians, you go, oh, the veterans, like they're broken. No, they're not broken. They're not broken at all. There's no defects. There's nothing wrong with them. They went through some shit and they're trying to deal with it. And you just need to be there to support them. And I don't know how to get that through to people because it's almost society is so messed up right now anyways. So trying to get common sense through to somebody's mind is really hard.
Yeah, let me tell you what's coming. We're talking about veteran suicide, but nobody's talking about civilian suicide. Okay.
Right.
Now, it's my opinion. This is my strongly held opinion. I believe the civilian suicides are outpacing veteran suicide by a 10-to-1 factor. Okay.
Wow.
Now, where's that coming from? Well, I don't know. What's the number now? 180 opioid or fentanyl deaths a day. If you guys get a chance, I just posted on Facebook something I've had on Twitter for a while. It's an article I had published called "A Busload of Veterans." Okay, give look on my Facebook page and give that a read. All right, it's also on Twitter. But in that article, I kind of walk through what happens if a couple of civilians die in a bus accident a couple days in a row, and then I add to that. And I say, now imagine, if you will, 50 veterans a day getting killed on a bus, and then again tomorrow and the next day. What do you think is going to happen? Well, nothing, because it's happening. Nothing's happening right now. So just like the fentanyl is becoming front page news and congressional hearings and all this crap, we need to get the veteran suicide into that same light, right? Because here's what's coming. At some point, the civilian suicide is going to ring true quickly. And then they're going to look over to the veterans and say, well, what have the veterans done to solve this problem? Okay. And here's what I'm telling my fellow vets. Just like Candace is saying, okay, we look at our veterans and we're like, he's not broken. Listen, I felt broken since I left the military. All right. Now, I know folks don't like to say, well, we're not broken. Well, I'm personally telling you, I'm broken. I've been broken 80 ways to Sunday. I'm just too stupid to quit. All right. And I've never quit anything. And that's one of the things that keeps me away from my date with suicide, is that refusal to quit. And that's part of what we need to reinstill in all of our veterans. Okay. But at the end of the day, my position is this. We as veterans are leading and letting the civilians commit suicide. Because if you're a veteran or if you're a civilian and you're having you're like, I can't do this anymore. And you start down that path. Well, you look up at the veterans and you say, well, they're killing themselves. So, if they can't handle it, then I can't handle it. Okay. So we as veterans have to look at this thing from all different directions. And whatever direction or whatever course of action kind of sparks you into changing, taking that fork in life that's going to stop you from committing suicide, whichever one it is, that's the button I'm trying to push. In my book, A Date with Suicide, I'm focused on 4 topics. It's going to take me somewhere between 10 and 20 books to get all of this stuff out there. Otherwise, you're reading an old version of the Bible.
Right.
Doug,
speaking,
sorry, I want to jump in here real quick. Steve LaMonica is asking, so is this your personal Facebook page? What page are people going to find a busload of veterans and your other?
D. Paul Fleming on Facebook. If you go to Veterans Wellness on Twitter, you'll find me there.
I also posted it on our blog for Words from Warriors too.
Yeah, it's actually too. If you pick up Addie's Veterans Magazine, right? The veteran who owns this, she published my article in the last issue.
I'll have to pick up that. And you had mentioned the Bible and the spiritual self and things, and this is kind of my forte. We're going into my world now. I am a trained medicine man from the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Nation, Blue Paint Clan, or you can call me a shaman, whatever. So the spiritual side of things is very, very important. Whether it's Christianity, any type of religion, higher power, something spiritual that is missing. Actually helps a lot. That helps complete, well, not complete, but it helps with the feelings of loneliness, despair, like hopelessness. I'd like for you to touch on the spirituality side of healing a little bit, if you would, Doug.
Yeah. So a medicine woman on the Navajo reservation coined the phrase for me as a seasoned holy man. Okay.
Yep.
So I've been running around with that moniker for a number of years. For me, I have a deep faith in the baby Jesus, okay? Mm-hmm. But I have a deep faith in my Native American heritage and my views on, kind of a balance between Christianity and my Native American stuff. Now, listen, my wife is a hardcore Irish Catholic, so don't tell her I'm talking about Native American stuff, right?
I'm not saying a word.
I'm kidding. But
we're not
me,
live.
Yeah, for me, what I'm driving at is that my spiritual beliefs, my faith, was so tested through my childhood. Okay, and then the military, that wasn't so bad, but then post-military, I kept saying, "Where the fuck is God, man? What would where are you? What is going on?" All right, and I was angry. All right. When I finally said, listen, I've got to figure this out because I've got physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, emotional pain. What the hell is going on? Once I started not trying to eat the whole elephant at once, but once I started and said, I need to find peace. All right. This is going to shock most people. The VA and all its insanity promoted meditation like there's no tomorrow. Now, look, I'm a warrior. I am not meditating. Okay, I fought that for 30 effing years. I'm not meditating. There is no kumbaya in me.
But it works.
Well, guess what? In 2018, I said, I can't take this anymore. And I put my head back. I said, why? So how's this supposed to work? Breathe in. Well, I focused on breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth. And as God is my witness, I'm telling you, about 5 minutes in, that nasty round of anxiety that cast its permanent home inside my chest disappeared. Mm-hmm. And it disappeared 3, 4, 5 seconds, just long enough for me to realize that I don't have anxiety. And I started kind of stopping, focusing on the breathing. And then the anxiety came back. And I was like, son of a holy, I'm a kumbaya guy. We're doing this, man. Okay. Listen, I don't sit, I don't see, all right. But I tell you what I do. I sit there with my Native American music on quiet, getting in a real quiet room, and I just put the setback. All right. Now, that launched me back into my Native American. Now I'm a full-blown sage, sweetgrass. Okay. All the bells and whistles. I'm out
Sage,
there healing people.
sweetgrass.
I'm healing people. I'm doing all the things that my ancestors used to do before there was modern medicine. Right?
Correct.
So, my spiritual piece is huge. It is a huge piece of what has brought me to where we are now. Because I'm going to tell you guys, there is no way this guy who barely got out of high school and could barely read should be writing books, let alone writing books that people are looking at going, man, that's sounding pretty intelligent. Because I just think that's smart. That is literally the spirit world talking through me and
100.
pushing it out there in my fingertips. Because when I read this stuff, I look at it and I go, man, I'm that good. And God says, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
It was me.
No.
But it's I think it's the experience. Your experience causes that. But there is the thing to say that it's not, the spiritual thing is not for everybody. Everybody handles all of their dealings different, right?
Yes.
And where that may work for some, it may not work for others. And
yes.
It's trying to figure out how to make or how to get somebody to not give up when the one thing doesn't work. And that's where it's so hard. Because like I said, even making the first phone call is difficult. But then going through a process of trying something, and how many years did you fight it? 30 years to finally find the thing that helps, that brings you down, that you find that level ground with. And some people never find that. And some people give up before they have an opportunity to try. It's do me this favor. Any of the three of you, I could explain my own as a civilian and my traumas and stuff. I've never dealt with the living in the military life or being in a combat zone or anything like that. But, being in the veteran community, I feel like I've heard and experienced and been a part of experiences with veterans and active duty that I understand a little bit more. But we have people that are watching and listening and wanting to learn about this. And maybe those civilians that are going, hey, what is it that they need and how do I help with this? What would be your guys' best version of saying, this is what PTS is, this is how it affects, and because to them it's like, oh, they have depression.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean?
Let's get a couple things out there. It takes a minimum of 8 to 10 folks in uniform to put one guy with a rifle moving downrange. Okay. So that's one combat soldier with 8 to 10 people behind him to support all that. Okay. All right. My first suicide was a yeoman 40-something years ago. Okay. My most recent suicide was a guy who was enlisted, did 6 or 8 years in the Navy as a nuke ET. All right. Nuclear trained, went to college, became an officer, did a full 20 years in the Army. All right. Just killed himself. Okay. All right. Got a guy that's taken in Maryland. What is his job for 3 years? He's standing there in full dress uniform, taking bodies, coffins, flag covered off of the thing every day. He killed himself.
Yep.
Okay. Never seen combat. We got a woman who served in Minot, North Dakota? Air Force.
Yep.
Carrying an M16 or whatever they're called today, AR-14, whatever they are now. Okay. Who couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't go back in the hole or back into 48 hours or 3 days of lockdown, whatever it is. She couldn't take it anymore. She did it for a number of months, killed herself. Okay. So there's no rhyme or reason as to, people saying it's combat related. Yes, of course it is combat related, but it's also in the book that I wrote, it tells great stories about some guys who have never seen combat, but they worked in an office environment that drove them nuts. Okay. The spit and polish, they couldn't take it anymore. Right. So what can civilians do? We can start by understanding that the military has millions of jobs in it and very few are combat jobs. Very few. Okay. Right. The majority of the stress and the strain come from all aspects. deployment on the ocean, submarines, surface ships, Marines go into the middle of nowhere to do what? Sit there and guard some country somewhere, right?
Right.
Last point. There's 152 main VA facilities. There are hundreds of satellites. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you can find one of those facilities that has a handle on PTSD, bring it to light. They don't.
Right.
The government just gave the VA $6.8 billion last cycle to quote unquote solve the problem. I was on Colonel Mattis's show live, and he put up some great piece, and it was a first commercial I've ever seen of the VA promoting this, tell your story. And I said, holy crap, that's what I wrote in my book. We got to tell our story. And he's like, yeah, the VA stole it. I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, no, it was out a while ago. But it's $6.8 billion, and nobody knows about any of these programs. And the last piece on that, anybody, the VA will tell you can come to the VA and walk in and be a patient mental health. Yeah, good luck with that. Okay?
Right.
Good luck with that. You're going to go sit in a line for, okay, my position is this. We need to take that $6.8 billion, move it into a private fund, and pay for any veteran to go to private care.
What do civilians need to do?
Yeah, so you need to open the conversation about suicide. We need to have open discussions. You need to ask your veteran friends, who do they know who has committed suicide? Okay. Do you have suicidal thoughts? Okay. Have you had any suicidal thoughts? Open the conversation and back it up by doing this. I'm listening. If you need someone to talk to, I will sit here, shut my mouth. I know it's hard to believe I can do it, but I can. Shut my mouth, and I will listen to you tell me your story. No judgment. That's what we're terrified of. Judgment. We were once warriors, and now we need to become wise men. And by the way, that book is under lock and key. I've already kind of started that one. Warrior to wise man.
I like that. I really like that one.
You're stepping in some muddy water there, Doug, because a civilian going to a veteran, regardless of how long you've known them, how long you've been involved in their life, or seen the things that they've went through, having a civilian go up to a veteran and go, how many veterans do you know that have committed suicide?
Why
now, I mean, I have zero problem doing that, but for the most part, that veteran is going to go, like, it's none of your business. Why? Why?
Why would you?
Because most have. When you see a lot of civilians that actually want to get involved in something like that and go, hey,
let me jump in and tell you this. I'll tell you why they say that, because they want to see if you actually really give a damn or not. When they tell you none of your business, then you come back and say, listen, I just want to make sure you're okay. We will test you.
Some of them do respond that way because they don't want to go down that rabbit hole, because it will take them.
I guarantee you, if you hit them back one more time, they will. Okay, she really gives a shit.
Can I ask this question?
So we're talking to people outside of this show right now, Mister.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Can I ask you this question, Candace? Have you ever asked anybody if they were an alcoholic? Have you ever asked anybody if they were sick? How about if they were on drugs? Right?
Wait. We're not, like, I don't have this problem. I'm good. I'm good. We're talking to everybody else watching.
I know, but we're just using an example.
I have. So it's hard for me to relate to the civilians sometimes, because, like, I'm in this, like, middle ground of, I understand the things that are happening with you guys, and I understand the questions that civilians may have, but because I'm so stuck in the middle, like, I can't answer it for either side.
I'll tell you something that I tell a lot of. I was just going to say real quick. I'll tell you something I tell a lot of civilians. My buddy made a documentary. My buddy John Hancock made a documentary called Bastards Road. And it talks about PTSD, his suicide. He was with I think he was with 2-1 Fallujah that took the huge, like he lost brothers. He set out from the East Coast and walked all the way to Camp Pendleton to raise awareness, and made a documentary about it. It's called Bastards Road. You can watch it free on Tubi. You can Google it. Then that's what I tell civilians. Watch this movie. and you'll get the
And he
real
committed
insight.
suicide?
No,
You said
he survived. He made it. He's good.
Oh,
He's
I thought
still
you
good.
said his suicide. So okay.
Well, it was his suicidal story and his story about PTSD and
Okay.
how he overcame it.
Yeah.
And it just gives a little insight.
So to close the loop on what you're asking, Candace, what you're doing is making a difference just by having you asking those questions and finding a path forward. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, if you do this, others will follow. Okay. And I'm proof, because there's nobody out there talking about suicide the way I'm putting it in people's faces, so to speak. Okay.
Right.
And the feedback that I'm getting is 99.9% either this, okay, but not in a bad way, or thank you. We need to have this conversation. I'm starting to see that coming more and more in direct messages and emails and posts saying, thank you for saying this. The other thing I'm seeing, and this is wildly shocking, more civilians are telling me about the suicide of a family member than veterans at a rate of 25-1. This book, if you can believe it, has caught fire with the civilian and the mental health professionals. Okay. My fellow veterans aren't buying this book. You know who's buying it? Their wives, their spouses, their children. Okay. And they're reading it, because one of the most important things I can encourage civilians to do is civilians that want to understand what's going on with the veterans, read this book, because it will put you in a mental state of what we're dealing with.
I want to add something into this. So
yeah, I was good.
There's a huge stigma, right, that has to be accomplished. You asked earlier about how does a civilian relate, and how can they help, right? And first part of that is ask yourself this: can you imagine being in your own head, hearing somebody talking to you, getting it to make sense to you, and then walking down that dark path and not being able to see any doors out? If you can't imagine that, then you can't relate to depression, because that's exactly what depression is like. It's like you're put in a room with the windows closed, locked, doors, no light on, no hope for a future, right? If as soon as somebody says that, if the first thing that goes through your mind is, well, that's just in your head, why don't you just stop being depressed? If you've already got those judgments,
turn it off.
Right. Then you're not gonna understand, because you can't see past your own eyes. Right.
Right.
And the same thing goes for addiction. Why don't you just stop? Well, you did this to yourself.
I heard that a lot.
There's things that are internal behaviors that they have to deal with. Those aren't my problems. Those are you problems, not my problems, right? I don't have to prove anything. And I have gotten to that point now where I can say that. Maybe 3 years ago I couldn't have, but at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you don't have to do anything, right? If somebody gets to the point where they feel comfortable enough to talk to you, that's when you need to do something, right? And I promise you, if you have those judgments in your head, you won't have to worry about this part of it being you, because you won't get that far.
Yeah, no, not at all. And not to negate depression or addiction, but I do feel that I think there's a difference with PTS than somebody being depressed or somebody that has addiction.
I'm going to have to disagree. As a former raging alcoholic, there's absolutely no difference.
Well, no, I'm saying what I'm saying is PTS is not just depression. Right. That's almost how it's viewed from the outside. Is
right,
that when
and neither is. and neither is alcoholism or drug addiction. And none of this is. And now, okay, 20 years ago, and I know where you're getting, and I'm going to let you get to that point because this is a very good point.
Are you? Are you?
20, maybe not. 20 years ago, alcoholics and drug addicts and people that were depressed, that was a moral issue on them. That was morally reprehensible. No, it's not. My alcoholism had absolutely nothing to do with my morals. It was the fact that I wanted to slowly kill myself and I wanted to dull the pain.
Yes.
Same with PTSD. Same with suicidal ideations. None of this is morally reprehensible. This is a human trying to cope with stuff that a human probably was never built to cope with.
Right.
Well, it again.
But what I was saying is that, so for the view from the outside is when they say veterans with PTS, they're like, oh, the veterans are just depressed. They're depressed because I saw things that they shouldn't see. I'm talking as an outsider because that's how they view it. And that's where I'm saying that I think there is a difference between saying somebody is depressed and saying that this veteran has PTS. There's a difference with that.
There is to an extent, right? I think you can have depression without having PTSD, right? However, I don't know anybody that has PTSD that doesn't have depression as a symptom.
Right. No, I think depression is absolutely a part of PTS. I just don't think that PTS is just depression.
It's not.
I think there are so many other aspects and so many other wheels that turn that. And that's what the civilian world has such a hard time understanding because they don't really know what PTS is. They have their assumptions. They have what they think it is. Like they think, oh, they're just depressed. No. That's not it. So that's when I was asking you guys, like, explain what PTS is in the best way that you possibly can, like marine it down for our civilians out there to go, this is what PTS is.
Let me jump on this because you're hitting on a great piece. And in my book, A Date with Suicide, I take the example of 7 days before my discharge, my EAOS. Okay. We had just come back from another long 2 or 3 month deployment. I'm a senior guy in the boat. I'm supposed to be off and I got tagged with duty. I'm going to be there for another 24 hours. So the next morning I'm supposed to get up and leave. Haven't touched land in months, right? I get called to do a fire watch. Fire watches are for newbies. Okay? Right. So I got to go do a fire watch. I was furious. I tell the story of that fire. Okay. Because a fire broke out, damn near killed me. Okay. Now I don't want to spoil alert the book, but it's a great piece of understanding what PTSD is, because that has nothing to do with combat. And yet that fire gave me nightmares for decades. And I mean decades, because I kept waking up screaming because I was trying to get this kid out from underneath this pump while this fire was blowing up all around us. Okay. And I could never put it all together until, ready for it? I started talking about it. Then once I started telling my story, right? I'm never going to do that. I'm not telling my story.
Right.
Once I started telling my story, I took all the life out of the nightmares and they started fading off. I sleep very well now. Remember, I do a little of kumbaya too, so hold me there on that one. But
yeah.
But to be fair, unfortunately that's not the case for everybody. It does need to be talked about and people do need to talk about it, but that's not the fix for everybody.
Well,
no, that again, that's why I go into the book by hitting 4 subjects. There's one girl out there that 18 years she was a veteran before she finally would accept being a veteran because she doesn't feel like it. So there is so much to this that, again, like trying to read, a 300-year-old Bible, you've got to take it a slice at a time and take away what works for you, because what works for you ain't going to work for me. And the same rule applies to trauma. I have no right to judge your trauma. Okay. Whatever you consider trauma is to you, that's you. Okay. I can't judge your trauma and you can't judge mine. I've known some pretty tough guys that broke on something that you wouldn't think. Why would you break on that?
Yep.
Well, it isn't the thing. It was the buildup of all of it. And that's what I'm
Right.
trying to dissect in this series, is each piece so that the reader can pick apart what helps them.
Well, and I want to ask you this, then we'll go to Donald and Candace. I want you to have the last word and last say, because you've been hitting on some really good points. So where can people find you? How can where will you be at on the 29th of next month, let's say? And how can people get in touch with you?
Have you guys seen my music video?
I have.
Have you seen my music video? Am I a guitar player or what? Oh my God, you guys gotta go on Facebook and see my. Come on.
I'm gonna go watch it.
Come on.
Brandon,
I'm on it. I'm on it.
In Rolla.
How long is the video? Like, play a clip. We gotta play a clip.
It's just a few seconds. It's not super long.
Wait a minute. It's 23 seconds of me strumming away, telling you I'm gonna be on stage with my new band. Okay.
Let's play it.
I was told
I'm working on it.
Isn't very long. I do agree that it's probably a very tremendous amount of time, but I've had significant others in my life tell me that's not very long, but that's fine.
Yeah,
it's my videos.
Yeah, like you guys and telling time and telling measurements, it just doesn't work.
So listen, on the 29th, I got invited out by some of you folks to Rolla, Missouri. All right, so we're going to go out there, have some fun with the bands. I just reached out to retired Gunnery Sergeant Jesse James, who's on Newsmax. She's following me, and I've been watching her for a long time, and I got to hit her up, try to get her to put a little publicity behind this, but I need you guys to help because she's waiting for me to respond to her. All right, so we can get some more action going on this thing, right? Here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
All
Buckle
right.
up.
Everybody get ready. Here we go.
Fellow vets, June 29th, Rolla, Missouri. We're coming to have a veterans concert. So buckle up and get ready to listen to D. Paul Fleming and his new band, the Flemingettes. June 29th. See you in Rolla, Missouri.
Woo!
That is awesome.
What? I thought you were going to be like strumming an actual song. You were talking about you were killing it. What was that?
That was the song.
Man, I can't carry a note to save my life, right?
That's
I just
an hour. It's our story.
I just reposted that with the flyer at the end of it, so people see the flyer. So give it another look on Facebook. But anyway, I've been pushing that. I reached out to Senator Holly, who's from Missouri. Haven't heard back from him, but I told him to get his behind out there. So if you guys want to, give him a call. All right, see if we can get a senator out there. Absolutely. So other than that, if you want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, also X. Right. If you want to find me there, look up Veterans Wellness. If you want to find me on Facebook, D. Paul Fleming. Okay. My friends call me Doug, but when you enter into the publishing world, you need a fancy name. So I'm Mr. D. Paul Fleming. Okay.
I like that. Don, you got anything?
Yeah, I just want to end with, at the end of the day, you guys hit the best point, and that is everybody's triggers are different. What each person can take is different. And you don't call pneumonia a cough. A cough is a symptom of pneumonia, right? So depression is a symptom of PTSD, along with different triggers, nightmares, anxiety. All these can be all of the symptoms or some of the symptoms, and those are your visuals. So if you need to see something to be able to say, oh yeah, it exists, there you go. Not sleeping is a physical thing. Having a panic attack in the middle of the day is a physical thing. So those are the proof that they existed. So with that, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. I enjoyed this.
Candace?
No, you said I was last.
Oh, so okay. Well, I got nothing.
Yeah. Nothing.
I don't. I've said my piece, and I'm letting it go around. I've seen this on TV before.
I think that we had some wonderful conversations, and it was great how naturally we're able to say the word suicide. And, when we're able to say that so boldly, suicide is such a big issue that it needs to be taken care of. It needs to be talked about. You have to normalize having a conversation. And it's okay if those thoughts have went through your mind. It's okay that you've survived that. And it's okay if you feel like you're going back there and you feel like you need to ask for help. Ask for help. It's okay. And I think with veterans, that's what we need to normalize, is being able to ask for help without judgment. And for our civilians, being able to talk about suicide without judgment. And, it's a double-edged sword there. The brilliant thing we talked about earlier, and I was corrected in the chat that I thought that the 988 was created by the VA, and it's not. It's a national hotline. Regardless of where it comes from, it's a beautiful thing. And Brandon's taught me some great things about it, that it's not just a call line now. You can text it. You can do an online chat completely anonymously. So it's okay to not feel like you can't take that step to pick up that phone and talk to somebody. You can text, and you can stay hidden behind that keyboard if you need to. And that's okay. And that's the thing, is like getting people to realize that it's not okay that it's happening. The numbers are astronomical. One is too many. But it's okay to talk about it. And it's okay that people are going through it, and we need to accept that. And we need to be able to figure out the best way to help in whatever way we can. And here at Homefront, our biggest thing is ask that next hard question. When you see somebody and you're going to say, hey, how are you? And, they say, I'm fine. Well, maybe they are, maybe they're not. But if you care, ask them how they're really doing. And sometimes that's all they need, is that extra little step. And it's so important in our veteran and our first responder community. Some people forget about that when you're talking about civilians and veterans and suicide. It's rampant in our first responders as well. Like, those men and women go through so much trauma with their jobs and dealing with the same. You guys know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. With this.
Yeah, we get it.
It's something that I'm passionate about, so it's hard to not go into personal things. And, we kind of didn't do that tonight, which I think is a great thing, because we still had great conversations. And like Double D said over here, like, we brought up some great points, and just getting that small wealth of knowledge out to people, I think is super important. And I think everybody should check out D. Paul Fleming. And you need to look at that book. If anything, if you're wanting to learn about veteran suicide, check out this book. It's going to give you some of the answers that you didn't realize that you needed, and help you understand a little bit more. So if you want to get involved, start there. I know he says get on Amazon, and that's not our biggest thing, but if you're at Hero Stock where he is on the 29th, go get one personally from him. And if not, and you can't make it there, get on Amazon, order this book, and learn a little bit about the reality of what's happening in our world, and not just our country. It's in our world. And these warriors, we're losing them by the minute, and that's not okay. So, Doug, thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you have and the things that you're doing. And I know we didn't even touch on a fraction of it, but we appreciate you. And from me, the only civilian on here, I have to look at all three of you and say thank you for your service. Thank you for waking up today, and thank you for continuing on.
Thank you for being somebody worth serving.
Mr. D. Paul Fleming, I can't wait to meet you at Hero Stock.
I'll be there too, sort of.
I want to go.
Come on.
Missouri.
Yeah,
I want to go. I'll bring my donkeys.
Huh?
That's right. What?
We
No.
thought you were bringing them.
Can you leave them at home?
Wait, who's got my hotel room? I'll drive. Who's got my room? Oh, no volunteers. Okay, I'm not coming.
I mean, I can't say anything. I'm married. I can't. Boy, I ain't stupid.
That's not what I was saying.
I know that, but
come on, Candace, you can't let us down. We need everybody down there. Get out there and pump this veterans event. To me, it's gonna be the starting point of, hopefully in less than a year from now, that we have a rally on veteran suicide. Okay. But we need some big voices. I've reached out to Tucker Carlson. I'm reaching out to some other people so that we can get some ambassadors to get behind this. Okay.
Absolutely. Well,
So-
and keep in mind, we're bringing Hero Stock to Kentucky. HomeFront Sitrep is also, we are, along with Louisville Local Entertainment, we're hosting our 3rd annual Veteran and First Responder Suicide Awareness Concert in November. We're huge advocates of it. It needs to be a thing. And yeah, I wish I could come to this one on the 29th. I really do. Maybe I'll be there in spirit.
There
You
you
will
go.
definitely. And I'm going to live stream it so you can still watch it.
And we
Yes.
will be going. We'll be we'll be broadcasting live on Veteran Voice Radio on Ranger Rockwave and on a Simplify Country. We're going to have it set out. Come out and see us at the Veterans Voice Radio booth. We'll be going live. We'll put you on the air. Whatever. Come check us out. And go buy our merch. We got merch. Buy it. Because I want a bag.
Get Bossy and I can get
Look,
Bossy.
I need a bag of potato chips. Somebody buy a hat. Guys, thank you so much. This was so informative.
Yeah.
Doug, I'd love to have you on again because I think we can have a part 2. We'll talk when your next book comes out. We'll have you back on.
Yeah.
You can have me on anytime you want. I set a goal of 200 podcasts, and I'm on my way. I mean, I think this is my 40th or 50th in 6 weeks or so. So
okay, so we'll have you back on 150 times.
Fine with me.
No, we'll definitely talk after. We need to get you in some more because like you said, there's so many different segments to this, and I think that we can touch on a few more.
Everybody, thank you.
Extremely pretty face, so I bring a lot to the show.
It's right. You
It's
got a 5 head. 5 head. That ain't no damn forehead. That's a 5.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on this hot Thursday evening.
Guys, I will not be here Tuesday because I'm heading. I won't be because I'm heading your way, brother.
Oh, okay.
It's a 12-hour drive. I'm going to stop halfway.
I'll give you a bye.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. But guys, please tune in to HomeFront Sitreps on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And just remember, I'm your host, not Willis. Everybody have a good night.
Out, as we always say.
Now say it. Go ahead. If you wanted to say something.
Stay safe out there. We got your 6.
I forgot about that. I saw it.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your 6.